The South, racists, rebels, and rednecks. In 1767, Jeremiah Dixon and Charles Mason drew a map dividing the American colonies into the northern region and the southern region. Since that time, the Mason-Dixon line has pretty much served to mark the place where the north ends and the south begins. But there's a more accurate way to know for certain where exactly you are. Get into a car, drive here, go east, and then south. At some point, someone is going to start calling you sir or ma'am, and that's when you know for certain you're in the South. Southerners are just polite like that. They sir and ma'am each other all the time. They've got a million different ways to say thank you, and they use them all regularly. My favorite, for the record, is appreciate you, which I heard a young man say to me at a gas station recently outside Atlanta. Actually, what he said was, appreciate you, sir. Southerners are polite and thoughtful. They say please and thank you. They honor tradition and God, and liberals positively despise them. Really, it's true. Liberals hate the South. To liberals, speaking with a Southern accent is just another way of saying, hey, look at me, I'm a racist. When liberals hear a Southern dialect, what they really hear is, hey, better brace yourself, I'm about to talk about Jesus. When liberals encounter a yes, sir, or a no, ma'am, what a liberal brain actually hears is, hey, I'm a slow-witted hillbilly without a thought in my head or teeth. You know, think hee-haw meets Mississippi Burning meets Sling Blade, and you sort of get the picture of the South inside the average liberal's head. To liberals, the American South is a dark, scary place filled with Klansmen and spooky backwoods inbreds, trailer parks, and violent fat sheriffs. From the movies and the TV shows they make regularly to the thinly veiled arrogance in the pages of their newspapers, liberals cannot imagine the South as anything but the kind of place you'd best avoid. Because if your car breaks down, or you're on a rafting trip with friends, nothing good can happen in the South. Once that creepy kid with the banjo starts playing, it's all over. All bets are off. It's easy for liberals to characterize the South that way because so few of them ever actually go there, unless it's to take a sneering, ironic trip to Graceland or maybe a quick stop on the way to Hilton Head Island. If liberals did somehow take a wrong turn and end up driving through the real South, the South I know, they'd get a very different and, to them, disturbing picture of the modern American South. In fact, maybe that's what liberals need to do to really understand the country they seem to hate so much. It would be an eye-popping surprise for liberals to accept that the modern South has excellent restaurants, major international banks, research centers, and top-rated universities. They'd be amazed to see how up-to-date it all is. Heck, they even have dentists down there and cable TV. If we could somehow just forcibly march the urban, smug liberal through, say, Mississippi, we could stop for lunch at one of the many delicious places to eat and show the liberals something they probably never expected to see: black and white folks eating together. Not just eating at the same restaurant, but eating together, often at the same table. You see, that happens a lot in the South. Go into a restaurant in Birmingham or Jackson, you'll see a racially integrated crowd. It'll be diverse, to use a word that liberals love. But go into a restaurant in some other more liberal part of America, not so diverse. It would disturb liberals to realize that the South is a heck of a lot more integrated than the so-called sophisticated coast cities. It's not Memphis or Mobile that's stuck in segregation. It's L.A., New York. Impossible, the liberals will cry. But it gets worse for liberals. For the past decade, African Americans from the North have been moving south in huge numbers. It's a total reverse of the Great Migration of the 1940s and the 1950s, when large parts of the southern black population moved north to places like Chicago, Detroit, New York. Now, though, blacks are coming back to the South. Impossible, the liberals cry. Don't those black people know that the South is full of rednecks and racists? Well, what black families know to the contrary is that the South has much better jobs and a better economic future, and more important, it's a better place to raise their kids. Put it this way, kids don't learn to say thank you and yes sir and no ma'am in liberal parts of the country or in liberal public schools. They learn that in places like Montgomery and Greenville. The Mason-Dixon line still shows up on maps, of course, but these days for a lot of Americans, it's better to be on the southern side. You know, how much better? The numbers don't lie. According to the latest census figures, the South was the fastest growing region in America over the last decade, up 14%. Americans are moving to Texas at a rate of 1,000 a day. That's why factories open in southern states like Alabama. That's why BMW opens facilities in South Carolina. It's why Atlanta, Georgia is a hub of international media and commerce. The American liberal, ensconced in his decaying metropolis or his blighted neighborhood, looks upon all of this and he hates the South like an East Berliner hated West Berlin. Around the world, we've seen this time and time again, that havens of entrepreneurialism and individual liberty have always outperformed the statist neighbors. Whether it was West Germany leaping over East Germany, South Korea outstripping North Korea, Hong Kong and Taiwan putting China to shame, or Singapore outshining the impoverished Malaysia. This has been a universal truth of history. The South fulfills that same role today. Its existence, its heritage, and its prosperity expose the liberal project as the impoverishing lie and deceit that it is. That's why liberals hate the South. Liberals hate the South because what they believe is an environment of ignorant hillbillies has defeated them in affluence and sophistication. Indeed, they can barely stand it. But there is hope. And it lies in the one Southern virtue that I've yet to mention, because much as the liberal hates the South, in the end, even the liberal has to find a place to live and work, and that's where Southern hospitality drives a final nail into the liberal dream. Because as the liberal packs up his stuff and leaves California, Detroit, or New York, sadly, he knows with dread, and soon he will hear the words that will drive the dagger into his most precious hopes. Howdy, neighbor.